Hello, Maniacs, and welcome back to another episode of Cult Classic Mania. I am your host, Matthew, and before this episode starts, I would like to make a few announcements. First being that I will be on Copulators Die First with Nick and Ashley on 2/17. We will be talking about the John Carpenter classic, The Thing, from 1982. And lastly, please rate and review on all podcast platforms that you listen to us on. It'd be greatly appreciated, and once you have done that, and you gave us 5 stars, go ahead and email me at cultclassicmania@gmail.com. And for the next episode, I will shout you out for giving us that kind 5-star review. With all that being said, I hope you enjoy this episode of Cam from 2018.
We come in peace.
Hey, fuck ass, give me a beer!
Yeah, welcome back to the cinema. This is not for the typical. Time to feed the occipital lobe with the films that I call my home. Buckle up, settle in, while we break it down a bit. Got a new take, make an old film relevant. About to give attention to the unsung revenants of the film industry. That's a wrap, let's riff.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Cult Classic Mania.
Hello, Maniacs. It's your host, Matthew, and welcome back to another episode of Cult Classic Mania, a podcast dedicated to the low-budget disasters that we all know and love. Not all of them are low-budget, but they definitely can be disasters. And man, I cannot wait to talk about Cam. This week we are talking about Cam from 2018, directed by Daniel Goldhaber. And Cam, of course, was his first debut as a director, and it really took off. I love this movie. 2018 for horror, it's kind of in a slump right now, I'll be honest. I don't like a lot of the movies that came out in 2018, and especially, I'm just gonna say, I'm probably gonna lose a lot of listeners for this, but I didn't like Hereditary. It wasn't as good as critics made it out to be. Times named it the ultimate cult classic of 2018. It was some bullshit like that, but I understood the story. I just thought it was totally convoluted, and none of the protagonists were likable. You're supposed to at least just have one protagonist within the story that you don't like, but honestly, whenever they told their stories or what they were about, I just did not care, because I did not like the characters whatsoever. I thought they just wanted to move on from that, but whatever. I didn't like a lot of movies, and there's just some movies that don't have a story at all, like Terrifier. It's just, there's no plot to it. They kill the main protagonist within the first 45 minutes of the film. And it's just shitty acting, and there's no excuse to it, because Terrifier had, a $2 million budget? You still could do something with a $2 million budget nowadays, but fucking, it was just a poor excuse of a film. Art the Clown was a terrifying character, but other than that, there's just no redeeming qualities from that film. But Cam, man, I love this movie. Again, I love it. I was worried about going into it because it was a Blumhouse production film, and they put out those shitty Rob Zombie Halloween remakes, and they did Jeepers Creepers and all these other terrible movies that came out in the early 2000s. But again, there was a lot of cons thinking about going into this movie. There's a lot of Netflix actors. That was kind of a trigger for me, because the only thing that Netflix actors can get or acting jobs are on Netflix, nowhere else, for it seems like. But again, those aside, I love this movie. And again, this movie was directed by Daniel Goldhaber, and Cam was his first big directing debut as a director. And it was a great debut for him as well, because before this, he was doing a lot of shorts and a lot of stuff he sent out to Sundance Film Festival and all the big film festivals out there. And it's a really cool film. I just really enjoyed the way he had directed it, and again, a great debut by him. And the writer for Cam is Mazej. This was her first writing debut, and this story is sort of based on true experiences she had as a cam girl in her younger years. I had read an interview with her before recording this, doing a little bit of research, and she said she wanted to not only make a sex-positive movie, but also it's sort of like a movie to empathize with sex workers. And I knew I would enjoy this film, but I was also weary of going to the film. And Izza went on to mention that she took a lot of inspiration from David Cronenberg. And I was just like, fuck yes, the Canadian Cronenberg body horror legend. and she says she took a lot of inspiration from the gory parts, at least, and it shows because it's very up close and personal and gory, similar to like, think of like Videodrome or Shivers when they show this super up close and disgusting shots and Shivers. And she also wanted to write a similar story to her experiences, like I mentioned, that people would not only understand, but so they wouldn't be so convoluted at the same time, where they just want to understand her experiences and just think she's another sex worker, if that makes any sense. And going into this, I had mentioned that there are a lot of Netflix actors and actresses, and that's a majority of the cast. However, Melora Walters, who is in Boogie Nights and Dead Poets Society, she was also the mother in this film. However, this movie was starring Madeline Brewer. She was in Orange is the New Black and a Black Mirror. Also, Patch DeRay, who is in Brittany Runs Her Marathon and The First Purge. And also Devin Druid from 13 Reasons Why. If you watch the show at all, I love 13 Reasons Why. It was a great show. If you remember him, he was the wannabe nerd, but he ended up being a wannabe punk rocker and trying to shoot up the school. So, yeah, he's a totally different character. He's a very likable protagonist in this film. So, just don't go into the film thinking he's like some crazy, because, again, he's just a character in that movie. Well, in that show, it's not his real self, but, whatever. And Cam was released November 16th, 2018. The budget was roughly $1 million or so, and it looked like it did break even and then some. Let's get into this bad boy. Alice, or known as her screen name Lola, is a strong sex-positive independent cam girl, and she wakes up one morning realizing her show has been taken over by a carbon AI copy of herself. What I do like about this film is that the idea itself is super original. However, they still bring inspiration from older horror movies. And again, it's really cool. And she says the writer, she says she's taken on a lot of inspiration from David Cronenberg, which I like that a lot. I feel like 2018 with horror, a lot of people are losing that respect or losing that basic foundations of horror. I think art is timeless and it shouldn't be messed with. You shouldn't try to, take new ideas, come up with original ideas, but, redefine those original ideas, make those ideas better, and, sort of just like generating the wheel, but not enough to where it's a super outlandish left field idea that looks good on paper whenever you think about it, but whatever goes on screen, it just turns out complete dog shit. Forewarning, I will be giving away a lot of spoilers for this film because, again, I break it down scene by scene, and I give away a lot that's in the film to help you understand and help paint a picture of the film. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and pause this episode, go back to Netflix, and go ahead and watch Cam from 2018. And also, Alice, the main protagonist in the film, she plays three different characters. And she plays her original character, Alice, in her screen name, who is Lola. And she is also the AI robot that is playing her fake Lola. So it's really cool. That's another thing that I enjoyed about this film. She's playing three different characters at once. And not a lot of actresses or actors can do that properly, at least. And again, that was another amazing attribute that I loved about this movie. But anyway, Cam starts out and Alice's room, and it's a very colorful pink room, and Lola, who is also Alice, is already streaming, but she announces that she was AFK during the start of the stream because she was going to the bathroom. Apparently she does that a lot, and she says she goes pee a lot because girls pee a lot. That's what they do. And you start to hear cheesy message alerts, and immediately after she returns, I read in another interview where Izza said that all of the messages were scripted. However, Madeline didn't see all of these messages, so she really had to improv on all of these messages and all of the response. Again, I thought that was really cool. She didn't know what they were going to say. Everything was scripted, and she just didn't have any idea. It was really cool again. And Alice, or Lola, she's getting tokens as her payment whenever she's streaming. And for one request, she has a request to spank herself as many times as she was tipped, which was 5 times for tokens. Another request was for her to hop like a bunny in front of everyone. And while she is doing this, she notices that her site rank is going from 62 to 61. And because I mentioned the ranks because that's an important part of being a cam girl. And apparently, the higher your rank, the more that you get noticed. And by doing so, you need to get as many tokens as you can. And you keep going up the ladder until you hit number 1. And after she's done bouncing, she puts on Missy Modell's Galaxy. And she is getting out her box of sex toys. And she has a name for all of them, apparently. And she says she'll use whichever ones the chat votes for. And the way that they do that is she says that she'll pick the toy by either 10 tokens for her baby bear vibrator or 20 tokens for a mama bear vibrator, or the bad boy, who is 50 tokens for big papa bear. And out of nowhere, she gets a random message from a screen name of visitor 003123. And a tip of 25 tokens asking if she wants to use a knife instead. Of course, this is a creepy message, and Alice gets annoyed and blocks him for it, but a similar message comes up again from the same person. However, it's under a different username, visitor 003128. And he keeps tipping her like crazy, crazy number of tokens, and bam, she does it. She slices her neck. However, it's a really cool gag. I loved it. And it's again, she mentions a body horror with David Cronenberg, and you can definitely see it with the special effects. The blood is perfect. It's not cheesy. It's not over the top. And I'm just kidding. She doesn't actually slice her neck off. Well, she does, but it's also fake. And come on, guys. Do you really think they would actually kill a protagonist like literally 3 minutes into the film? I want to be reviewing this film if that happened. But yeah, it cuts to the title card. We get a really old school title card. It says Cam, and it cuts to the next scene where her show is over and she's talking to her cat about how well she did. And this creepy guy who was Tinker, Barnacle Bob, is played by Michael Dempsey, and again, he's very creepy. I would not trust him. And people in interviews are saying that he was attractive and they think he's very charismatic. I don't see it at all. I think he's very creepy, and I would not want to be around him. Anyway, he is apparently in charge in a lot of the cam girls' careers, and he's sort of like a nice pimp to them. And he is helping Lola get to her number 1 rank as best as he can. And after all of this happens, we are meeting Alice's family for the first time at her mom's hair salon. Her name is Lynn, who is played by Maloro, I believe her name is, Waters, and her brother Jordan, who's played by Devin Druid. Her mom is meeting with a client, so Alice, she calls over Jordan, and apparently he knows about her cam career, so she's telling him about how she slit her throat on camera for everyone the night before, and he, again, like I mentioned, he knows about her cam show, and she's actually really excited for it. He's really supportive of her career and what she's doing. She's not bothered by it at all, because it's innocent. It's just camming. It's not like she's doing porn. Well, she is doing porn, but she's not, you know what I mean, whatever. And, her mom doesn't know about what she does for a living. She thinks she's like in real estate or in web development or something like that. And after all this happens, Alice, she heads to the grocery store to pick up party supplies because it's Jordan's 17th birthday party. And she runs into a girl she knew from high school, I'm presuming. Her name was Katie. And she asked Katie where to find something, and Alice notices the creepy guy she was on a video call with, and the creepy guy, again, was Tinker. A few hours down out of nowhere, in a freak response, Alice invites Katie to Jordan's birthday party. Alice is back at her house and opening mail that she has received from her P.O. box, and she also gets a call from her cam girlfriend, known as Fox, who is played by Flora Diaz. Fox and Alice are talking about ways that they can improve their rankings on the site, and Fox is just doing a cam show at the Cam Girl Clubhouse, because apparently that's a thing. And Alice is hesitant about it. She says no, and Alice says that they should do a show on the Vibratron. It is the most intense vibrator in the world, apparently. And Alice is in her room later that night, and she is watching the top cam shows for that evening. And while this is happening, she again gets another call from the creepy Barnacle Bob. Again, this guy is fucking creepy. I don't know why she trusts him. I know he's being generous to her and giving her gifts and everything. It's just, he's fucking weird. Barnacle Bob, he offers her a nice piece of jewelry, and Alice asks if Barnacle Bob wants to meet up, and they both agree. Right after they agree on a place, Barnacle immediately hangs up the call because he's frightened by something. They don't show what it is, he's just frightened and he hangs up the call immediately. She quickly cleans up her room and she starts her camp show for that evening. This is when she hits number 50 in her ranking. Her rank keeps dropping, however, because Princess X, who is played by Samantha Robertson, her competitor, is telling everyone to leave Lola's stream so they can watch Princess X do a boring strip show. And this is when Lola shuts down her show due to her ranking dropping so low. And this girl is the worst. She is terrible. She's a typical mean girl that you don't want to be around. However, Alice gets a call from Tinker, the other creepy guy, and she does a private show with him, apparently. And Alice asks if that he was the one that she saw in the store the other day. And he responds that he was. He apparently got a job where Alice lives, which is very alarming. Again, adding on to his creepiness factor, along with Barnacle Bob's creepy factor. I just don't want to think about it. And he apparently didn't tell her, and he's staying in some sleazy motel nearby where she lives. Alice calls her friend and distraught, and Alice wants to go to the Camp Girl clubhouse after all. And she is going with Fox, like originally mentioned. Alice is greeted by a few friends when she gets into the Camp Girl clubhouse, but quickly met with Princess X, and she is being a straight-up bully to her. Again, she's an awful person. She's awful, and she's a total bitch. Dare I say it, she is. She's a total bitch. And, it cuts to Fox and Alice taking turns on the infamous Vibratron. It's so intense that her orgasms are crazy, and she passes out. She's like, oh, these orgasms are insane. It's the craziest thing I've ever experienced. And she's just starting to pass out. It cuts to the next morning, and Alice is back at her house after using the Vibratron. And she logs on to her Camgirl site to see that her profile is apparently online. However, she clearly just woke up, and it's not actually her online. She clicks on the profile, and there are currently 958 viewers on her show. They're replaying an old show of hers. Apparently, that's what she thinks at first. And the set is in her old room, and she starts to hear voices in her actual showroom where she does her live show. Her viewing screen is on the showing an old show. And Alice calls her customer support, saying she's having her issues with her account. And she's saying she's locked out and trying to log in. And they're replaying an old show, and the customer support guy, he's not being of any help, and he's just saying that we know you're online right now, but we don't think it's actually a fake you, and that they don't replay old shows. And she's very detailed too. She has a calendar of shows that she has done, and she just has notes and saying that she's already done this type of show. And this customer support guy, he's just not helpful at all. Anyway, Alice, she makes an anonymous account to comment on the live show that's playing. She is saying that her account has been compromised, but the fake Lola, she, quickly reports her page and blocks her. So Alice, she creates another fake profile under the name Mr. Teapot. She attempts to send Lola 5,000 tickets, but denied because her account is new and she needs to have an account that's at least 5 days old. I believe that's what it says. And Alice is back at the Cam Girl Clubhouse, showing them the live feed footage from her hacked account. And they keep going over the rational possibilities, but Alice jumps to the outlandish conclusion that Princess X has compromised her account and found a Lola lookalike to ruin her life, I guess, and whatever. It's the next morning, and Alice is at a video rental store. And also, do they actually have movie stores anymore? Because this is wild to see a movie rental store in 2018. I mean, we have a Family Value video store where we live, but that's the only one for at least 400 plus miles. Anyway, she's on the phone with the campsite customer support again, following up on her account, and she gives her access code again, but the support says the code is invalid. She heads back to her mom's hair salon, and that fucking creepy guy, Tinker, shows up out of nowhere. And fake Lola had apparently told Tinker that she loved him, and that was one of the rules that Lola follows. She does not say that she loves her men, but apparently fake Lola told Tinker that she loved him, and fake Lola broke one of her rules again. and Alice is back at her house attempting to log into the Lola account, and it's failed login. She attempts to make a new Camgirl account. However, she attempts to verify her ID, and she gets a pop-up saying that the ID is already on file. She notices the fake Lola account is online again and doing a public show in a library, which is something Alice, again, she never does on her shows. And she's doing another cheesy strip show, flashing out of nowhere. And immediately it cuts to Jordan's birthday, and his annoying fucking friends are getting super high and watch the fake Lola live stream. These guys are the fucking worst. But I forgot how annoying 17 to 21-year-olds were. And again, I'm only 23. Anyway, she goes back inside the house where Katie is, and Katie wants Alice to take a picture of her by the presents because how good she looks. And Jordan's asshole friends, they run into the room, and one of his friends shows Jordan the live stream. He is annoyed because he's literally doing this in front of everyone. Why would you do this in the first place? Why would you watch porn in public like that and just showing everybody? Whatever. And he's trying to take away the asshole friend's phone because he is trying to expose her as a quote-unquote porn star. Obviously, Alice is mortified, but her mom picks up the phone because whenever they dropped it, and it's playing the video, and she has no clue to how to react, which rightfully so. How would you react in this fucking kind of situation? This asshole is trying to expose her daughter. Again, whatever. And the mom quickly, she changes the subject, and she's like, let's cut the cake, and let's forget the situation ever fucking happened. Alice is back at her house, and she's watching the fake Lola do her cam show, and I love this little part. It's sort of like a little homage to 80s horror, where fake Lola is doing aerobics for the show, and she's in this cheesy looking spandex, like sort of like back in the day. Like literally every horror movie in the 80s, there was always some good looking actress who is in really cheesy looking spandex doing aerobics, trying to get fit, and she's spanking herself similar to like what Lola did in the first show in the beginning. And Alice is going a little crazy because this is when she starts to see Lola's rank go up to 30. She gives fake Lola more tokens. Fake Lola is copying what real Lola did in the show, where she pretended to commit suicide, except for this time she pulls out a gun. She wants at least 10,000 tokens to suck on the barrel, 50,000 tokens to cock the gun, and $100,000 to put the gun in her mouth and kill herself. Her rank is now at 22 when she starts to get these tokens in. And she does this, and she gets the tokens, puts the gun in her mouth, and blows her brains out during the live show. Alice is obviously mortified by this and starts to hyperventilate, and you think she's going to pass out, but she doesn't. Again, this is another fake tactic. Again, Alice is freaking out at this point, and she tries to call her friend Fox. She still believes that Baby, or Princess X, is behind the scandal, and asking Fox personal information about Baby to somehow get into the fake Willow account. She hangs up and looks for the address of Barnacle Bob's sleazy motel. And again, they meet up, and Barnacle Bob is a creepy man. This guy is fucking creepy. It's creepy. She's unsettling. But Lola mentions that she's hungry and that they head to an authentic Mexican restaurant. Apparently, he is the one that pulls all the strings for the girls to get the ranks. And Lola is attempting to get information on Baby, and Barnacle Bob is showing the pictures of his visit he had with Baby, and Lola goes to excuse herself to go to the bathroom, and she notices fake Lola is online. While this is happening, Barnacle Bob also gets a notification that Lola is online, and he is suspicious and follows Lola into the ladies' room. Creepy Bob attempts to capture Lola, but she quickly gets away by biting Creepy Bob's finger. And she storms out of the restaurant and grabs her taser from the glove compartment of her car in case he comes back. However, Alice is back at her house looking up personal information on Bobby, because whenever she was with Barnacle Bob and he was showing pictures of the visit he had with her, she noticed an address in the background that could possibly lead her to Baby. And she's able to find it, attempting to find her. And however, when she finds the real name of Baby, she notices an obituary come up from the search that she was looking for. She, again, is watching the fake Lola feed, and Baby are supposedly giving a tour of fake Loa's house. She's going crazy again at this point because she thinks someone's breaking into her house, and Alex breaks her laptop in anger and heads to her mom's house the following morning. The first thing she notices at her house is they have whorehouse spray painted on the side. Alice, she goes to offer to pay for the damage or paint the house herself. Her mom isn't worried about the damage, she just kind of ignores it. And Alice admits to her mom that she wanted to tell her about what she did for a living, but she didn't want to tell her until she was in the top 10. Apparently, her mom watched some of her shows and enjoyed it. I thought that was a little creepy, but Alice is afraid to tell her mom what's really going on with fake Loa. And this is when Jordan starts to act like an asshole towards Alice because of what happened. Jordan, he walks in while Alice and her mom are talking. Alice attempts to say hi to Jordan, but again, Jordan is being a total asshole about what happened in the party. After that strange interaction between her brother, Alice goes to the library to check on baby girl and fake Lola. She's freaking out, so she heads to the sleazy motel that Tinker was staying at because, again, he mentions that he had gotten a job in her hometown. And she tells Tinker about the fake Lola in the fake Lola show. Tinker mentions another group of girls was actually acting differently towards Tinker, and Tinker offers to let Lola stay in the motel for the night. Again, why the fuck would she agree to stay in a motel room with this guy? This guy is fucking creepy. He's bad news. He gives me the heebie-jeebies. And Tinker, he is sleeping on the little love seat there while Loa's in the bed. And Tinker gets up later that night to take care of business, if you know what I mean. He's in the bathroom with the door open, watching fake Loa's show. Real Lola hears the moaning from the bathroom and walks in on him. Finally, real Lola does something rational and tases Tinker because, again, I mentioned that she was grabbing a taser from the glove compartment of her car. And Tinker explains that he knew that there was going to be another Lola copy after he sort of regains consciousness. And he just has a chronic masturbation problem, and it seems like that. And he watches enough cam shows to know what their time is up being a cam girl. He doesn't know how it works and says he wanted to actually help Lola. Real Lola goes into the motel bathroom where the private cam show is playing with fake Lola and meets face to face with fake Lola finally. Fake Lola, she pretends that this is Tinker's girlfriend, which, why anybody as attractive as Lola, why would she be with some creep like Tinker? Whatever, I'm thinking too much into this. Lola leaves creepy Tinker behind at the motel and heads back to her house. Real Lola is checking on the site rankings again, and now fake Lola is number 10 in the rankings. She goes into her pink room and sets up everything as if she's getting ready for a live show, and gets in front of her vanity mirror and camera. Lola logs in to the Mr. Teapot account, and she wants to video chat with the fake Lola. However, real Lola is covering up her camera at first, so fake Lola can't see her face. And eventually she reveals her face to fake Lola for the first time. Real Lola orders fake Lola to sit down at her vanity mirror too, so they show how good they look together. And people are starting to think that there are double Lolas. Lola wants to see which they like better, so the fake Lola or the real Lola. To vote, you either use hearts for the fake one or teapots for the real Lola, because the real one is Mr. Teapot, and real Lola removes her bra strap first. Fake Lola follows her lead, and then fake Lola wins by a landslide. And then they want fake Lola to strip down. The real Lola clears her desk and tells fake Lola to repeat after her. Quote unquote, "Hey boys, want to see something cool? You stole my face. You stole my face and I'm going to get it back." And this is when they proceed to slam their face on the desk to where they are both covered in blood. This part was really unsettling to me, because especially with the eerie music that they had in the background, and both of their faces are just covered in blood. That's an understatement. It's literally, their entire face is just covered in blood. It's fucking gross. And, they argue back and forth, and then they both slam their faces on the desk again. Again, this is when she is on the verge of passing out. Real Lola is starting to cry, and Real Lola clearly won this one, and she says, "I won. You need to give me your username and password back." And she hands it over like it's nothing, but she then goes on to delete her real account instead of keeping it. This is when Alice is back at her mom's hair salon, where her mom is covering up Alice's bruises, and she's off to sign up for a new Camgirl account. And under the name Emily Ramsey, and her username is EveBot. And that was the ending to Cam from 2018, directed by Daniel Goldhaber. That wasn't a very satisfying ending to me in a way. I like the way it ended. It shows that she actually won it, and the fake one got what she deserved. However, I kind of wish that they just kind of stop at whenever they're trying to decide on who gets the account and who doesn't. I wish they would have just stopped there and just left our mind wandering. I think that would have been a much better ending. I enjoyed this movie very much despite the ending. I very much enjoyed Cam, and it's super underrated for 2018, even though a lot of dog shit movies came out. It's a super original idea with a lot of old ideas mixed into it, and that's what made it great. And it was a fun one, too. There wasn't all just suspense. They had fun with it, and it's a very colorful movie as well. Everything is so bright and colorful. People are afraid to do that now with horror. People are afraid to be funny. People are afraid to tell jokes, apparently, now. Again, this is a really fun one. I enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. And right from the get-go, you learn everything that you need to know about what Lola is about or Alice is about. And they go right into the story. There's no fillers. There's no bullshit. They go right into it. I love it. And again, it's not overly convoluted to where you don't understand the industry. Because I know nothing about the camgirl industry. And I learned more about this from this industry with this movie than anywhere else that I could have read about the camgirl industry. It's super interesting industry, and I highly recommend watching Cam from 2018, directed by David Goldhaber. I also forgot to mention that it is fast paced too, and it's not a very long movie either. I believe it was like an hour and 35 minutes. It wasn't very long, and they get straight to the point. Again, highly recommend. I can't recommend this movie enough. Go watch it. Don't worry about any other movies or shows on Netflix. Go watch this goddamn movie. It is not a disaster. Anyway, that was this week's episode of Cult Classic Mania. We talked about Cam from 2018. And next week, we will be talking about Conquest from 1983. And this movie is a goddamn disaster. But I think I love it at the same time. Think if, Lord of the Rings and Conan the Barbarian fucked with and somehow had a incest relationship with Star Wars, and that's what Conquest is a low budget 35mm disaster from 1983. And I think I love it at the same time. It's shot on 35mm camera, and there's a fog machine going throughout the entire movie. It's the most wonderful, awful things I've ever seen. Anyway, you go ahead and, with all of that being said, this has been another installment of Cult Classic Mania. You can go ahead and follow us on Cult Classic Mania on Instagram. You can follow us on Facebook, Cult Classic Mania. And if you want to support us monetarily, you can go ahead and do so by going to patreon.com/Cult Classic Mania. And I believe I plugged everything that I need to plug. And again, this has been another installment of Cult Classic Mania. And I will talk to you guys next week for Conquest.
We come in peace.
Fuck ass, give me a beer!
Yeah, welcome back to the cinema. This is not for the typical. Time to feed the occipital lobe with the films that I call my home. Buckle up, settle in, we'll be breaking down a bit. Got a new take, make an old film relevant. But to give attention to the unsung revenants of the film industry, that's a wrap, let's riff.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Cult Classic Mania.